Okay, guys, I have it tacked in. This is what the back side looked like. Okay, front side. I just put 4 tacks on it just to hold them. Then I took a scribe and I scribed the outside. Excuse me, a little smoky. And as much of the inside, as I could get. I couldn't reach under there. So the reason for scribing the outside and the inside is that I should have a material thickness then around my scribe, so that when I get to the bottom, because I can't reach in there, I know how far back I need to cut. Now, you can see how I left this 1/4 of an inch down here. Again, this is the bottom. So as I tack these on the edges, I'll get about 50% of the way, I'll get to the apex of the circle on both sides, right? Welding it in. And then I'm going to push this out, maybe put a piece of 1/4 inch or 3/16 along the bottom of this. Still got the overlap to cut, but along the bottom of this, once it's cut out, and then clamp down so that'll hold it nice and flat, but push it down below the edge here. And that'll give me that little bit of a shelf, a little bit of a stop for when I put materials in there or whatever, cell phone, pencils, anything. But so that's kind of where it's at. Then I'll come and I'll wrap around the back side of this with TIG. Hit the inside, tack it on the inside, and then just keep holding it up to my cut line all the way around. And then the last thing will be, I might need to take a little sliver out of there, but the last thing will be to get in there and cut that edge. Because sanding this in the end, whoo! And of course I did put it on the bottom, on both sides for obvious reasons. So that's the phase we're at. It's been mocked up. It'll be trimmed up. And stay with me. It's going along well. My confidence is up on the results so far, so I'm very happy that we'll be able to get this looking the way I want it to look. Continuing on with the this header. This is the side geez, every time. This is the side I haven't done anything but scribed. This is the side that I finished now. So I TIG'd it along the outside. I haven't finished. I am finishing. This is, I came in and I MIG'd on the corners in here because I could get the gun in there. And then there's that 3/16 drop along the bottom. I carefully welded up. Now you're thinking, how the hell did you get in there? So, and clearly you can see this lid is now off. So I cut the tacks that I used to locate everything. I popped the tacks off, marking in several spots where this was so that I can identify any change or any difference. But of course it was welded pretty much all of the way around. And it should, in theory, continue to fit just fine. But now I'll trim these corners so that I can get a good tack weld on and get in there and put this piece back on. Now, in terms of order of process, an order of process is very important when you're making something that has so many pieces and you want it to fit back in. Now you'll remember that I located this. The tubes are sticking through. I scribed the tubes and I got the shape of the header. This came off and I marked it, but that's an opportunity for misalignment. Any welding is an opportunity for misalignment because material moves when you weld. Now, I identified this location, and when I put this back on, I am simply going to tack weld it on, then test fit and identify if I need to move a little bit. Yep, I might, in the end, I might, in the worst case scenario, have to come in and adjust this, like, just for the sake of conversation. I'm just picking a random side. There might be a scenario like that, you know, versus right over the top. And if that occurs, it occurs. Then I got to come back and do it. Order of operation and sequencing your build allows for you to consider what possible catastrophe, but what possible change is going to occur as a result. And as a result of this fabrication. And in this case, these holes might not be in the right spot if I just simply weld that up. Now, many guys can think of probably 1,000 different ways to do this. I could go back to the car several times for each little incremental step. I could weld a little bit here and a little bit here, go back, test fit, and go back and forth and back and forth. That in and of itself also has opportunity for error, because unless you have perfect alignment, you know, there's a conversation about just Cleco, that would be the best way, because you're dealing with a fixed diameter hole every time. You're working on 1/8 of an inch. If you're using a Cleco, you're working on 1/8 of an inch hole size, so variation is mitigated, right? You keep going. But inevitably, when you're working with complex, stacked up assemblies, you're gonna have opportunities to make additional repair or change. So what I've chosen to do is what I have done so far, and that is to first cut these two and then tack this on. If I'm lucky, my holes will line up. What is luck? Luck is preparedness for opportunity. But we won't get into that because I'll ramble again. But if I'm not lucky, I'll have to identify the location of this, determine which of these, if not both, I will have to move, and I will spot weld them, cut them, move them, tack them. I keep saying spot weld, but tack them, and then continue that mode of operation. So until I get it where it needs to go. So there is right and there is wrong. Of course, I could have built this whole thing out, slapped it in the car, and then that opportunity for luck would have been a little less statistically possible. But you have to try to control that, and that's the whole point. You have to try to control your opportunity to do it right with each step. So it's in my best interest. Well, this is just tacked on, but it's probably in my interest to tack that before going too far with this, and do a check, because then if I have to, then I can do that. On the interior side, of course, a TIG torch is not going to happen. So I just slowly tack this all the way down, tack, and then I came in with my Dremel and a rounding tool and spent an inordinate amount of time radiusing that out. Then I took some 80 grit on that sander and just keep rolling it across this surface here. Now there's a little bit of deformation with the seam here, but it feels really good. I have an opportunity for, you know, a quick coat of some filler or whatever you call that surface or surfacing material, feather fill, whatever, in here. Probably run my finger across there so that it blends well, and then of course everything else out here is flush with the surface. So it's coming along good. and we got another one to do, and this is certainly not something for a person with limited patience, but the results are gonna be so far are gonna be very good. Who knows? I can't predict the future. This is as far as I've gotten. Well. So there's the two pieces, flush with the edge and a lip on the bottom. So I just took a ball grinder and ground that. You can see the weld on that side. Got a little better on this side. I welded it from the other side because you learn as you go. Got it all scratched up and ready. But actually, probably we'll have to finger this, when I get into finishing it with a little bit of mud. This, very slightly. This sanding, basically just running back and forth with the finger sander on the top and bottom, and then coming in, and there's a divot, and there will be a little bit of reconstruction. I suppose I could come in and TIG weld that, but that's not who I am. I mean, I'm not going to go through that effort. I'm just going to finish it off. There's, when I ran the hole saw, there's a drop right there, where the hole saw, but, and again, I could come and TIG weld that up, and, I don't know, maybe, but clearly it's, the radius and the symmetry and everything turned out really good, staying in control of the process. Now, I started doweling a little bit of this down and sanding it, and I'm going to continue with that for a little bit. Move to this side, get the metal in the place that it needs to be in, for the minimum amount of fill and primer surfacer. But I'm on the home run. Now I gotta build out the radius down onto here, the closeout for these ends, and of course put the backs back in. So they're sitting there. So probably what I'll do now is it sucks because I'll have to tack. I can only access from this side. Tack, mark, figure out a way, but I'll put those on with the fasteners. Push the dash all the way up to it and somehow identify, where the heck they need to go. Tape. Maybe tape will work. I just want that inside edge to be clean. I don't want to sit there and scratch that. I'd like to just TIG that inside edge, because the result of TIG, there's 100% penetration on here, and then I move to, MIG, but that's extremely easy to clean up. So when you get into, if I really have a high level of control, that's just a matter of getting in there with sandpaper for the most part and cleaning it up. So we'll see. Here we go. They're both welded in. You see the screws tucked down underneath, or bolts rather. They're just 1/4-inch bolts into the rivet nuts. She's up. She's supporting herself. Straight across. I still have to just do each corner now, and then close out the ends. But she follows the roof line. Everything turned out really nice. I'm very happy with it. So a little bit of explanation here. So we got this gap and this trim. The garnish molding rolls around and it just lines up on each side with that. So when I open the door, now I need to close this out. So I will close that out, but that piece will also integrate into this piece. And interestingly, the garnish molding lines up with this edge. So I'll shut the door again. See, the garnish molding lines up with the channel, with the outside edge of the channel. So as this piece transitions down to the outside channel, I'll have a parting line, and then there will be just another basically vertical piece that will close out the gap on the dash and run up and meet this little corner. So all is going to plan quite well. Now with all that welding, I do this, took a little bit of a drop, not at the ends. At the ends they're flush, but she dropped a little, so I'll have to, hammer and dolly on that and get her finished up. But boy, she really looks sharp. It just turned out really, really nice. And then I got to start looking at features like the rear view mirror, which would be an LCD or some sort of a display, and then my map lights, underneath, all that kind of thing. She sticks out, not horribly far from the dash. So in the seating position, it'll be perfect. It gives you as much window area as you're going to get out of a ride like this. So it was a fun project. We're near completion. Thanks for watching. So I've been pooping around a little bit. I built a couple of these. So just kind of sanded out with at this point with 60 on the right there. 60 2-inch on the die grinder or whatever you want to call it. The critical thing was just taking some material, bending at 90, and then sitting in the shrinker and actually stretching the outside edge so that I get two identical pieces. Then you can see the weld on the inside. I just cut it one wheel thickness. The nice thing is this is 18 gauge, which is 48, roughly 50 thousandths. That's a 40 thou wheel. So if I'm scraping up against the inside of this while I'm cutting, I'm leaving a 40 thou impression or width in the same thing there. So then I got a slightly bigger piece of material, clamped this guy in the vise, and then dollied it down to the bench. Okay, did that on both sides. Tigged up the seam, ground the seam, and so this will get cut shorter more than likely, but this will align, I don't know yet, but this will align the next panel. This is backwards, but it'll align the next panel then and keep things looking straight like that. And basically, as I was going along, this is the side that contacts the rubber gasket that's holding the windshield, and so I just wanted to copy that profile, right? So I just kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until I copied that profile. And so that was the ID, and then of course keep going back and forth until I achieved a fit. Okay, and you can see that's where the impression goes down, and then I will build basically a vertical. It's going to have a little tie-in to the dashboard. The easiest part last, right? So I did that for both sides, and at this point then I will take, and you can see here on the dash, I cut this side out, so that will mate up right there. And I'm in the process of clamping something rigid onto here. Maybe like that. And then I'll dolly that up as it drifts from 0 toward the curve profile. Excuse me, I've got a horrible cold. Dolly that up, and then as I build this closeout, this will be the beginning then of the transition going down. So it's actually moving along quite well. It took, I don't know, probably, well, this has taken a while, but for me to get started and thinking this through was like, wow, where do I want to start? But I think this is the best place to start because I can tack them on, fit them in, tweak them, you know, hit them another tack, tweak them, and when they finally are where they need to be, this will position this header properly into that window opening. Right now I've got maybe an eighth, not even an eighth of an inch. I got 5/16 holes for 1/4 inch well nuts in here, and the centers are really, really good. But if you can imagine, a 1/16 this way and a 1/16 that way is dead center. That's hard to achieve, especially when you're welding. But I suppose I got somewhere between a 1/16 and an eighth of an inch worth of wiggle room, which is just ideal, because every time it goes up, it goes up nice. These are going to basically lock it in to a 1/16 or less. So that's where I'm at. I'll tack those on and get back with you as I'm beginning the fitment. Okay, I have it in. And I have it in. I had to MIG. I tigged it. I butt welded it. I tigged a couple of spots here on the bench, brought it over, and got them slid over. I can clearance it a little bit, but you can see, it's just kind of riding the edge of the inside. But I had too much gap in the fold up here because it didn't lay back as much as I thought, and I could rig it in here, so I could wrap tape around this and pull it. So anyway, I released it, and then I MIG welded both sides, filled them in. Now I'm going to get ready to take it out, but I think I really like this. I really like this tab, and I think I'm going to stack the next piece with a chamfer going through and through this to hold the whole shooting match together. So I think at this point I need to build down my closeout here. Now if you look at this is following the windshield, right? It's following that. I close the door, and we're getting, so that's the area I need to close out. So I need to chase down this. I got to back up. Just a second. Well, how much can I back up? That's what I can do. So my gap is good. So I'm going to close out all the way down to this piece here. And that should, and then of course I have some fill to do because this is cut back. And then I'll grind the whole piece, and for the most part that'll be done and ready for mounting up top. I got the same operation on both sides. I tried to keep symmetry as much as possible throughout the process. So again, I have a gap in here that I have to fill, but I got to back that and then go from there. So these pieces are going to be relatively simple to do, but I want to get this ground out and looking like it's supposed to look. So That's the next step. Okay. I got them capped. Remember that step that I just welded into that step? Got a big bead right into there. It was very hard to get the torch into this side, so I wanted to make sure I fully locked that in. So now we've got the radius of the window. She chamfers back, wraps around, steps down for the next material that goes underneath it. Both sides completed. Radius edges, fully welded, excellent heat signature, excellent penetration. So, I played in there for a long time back into that corner where the shelf is, but I am happy with it. You know, there's a couple of low areas and stuff, but realistically, it's going to need some, you know, maybe a little bit of mud, but more than likely, most of it's going to be, you know, a couple, 2 or 3 coats surfacer, you know, urethane primer surfacer. So I am very, very, very happy with how it turned out. Everything is looks just dandy. So we'll keep going. Now we got to build the uprights that tie into these. Well, for the metalwork is done. So steps down and around for the trim piece. You can see I added this piece on and it ties in. Same on both sides. Now that'll go up and in. The step here, this part is the pocket for the hinge. Right here, it comes over and goes all the way up. So I'll mount it in and give you a shot of it. Okay, just mounted her up. So there's the hinge pocket, then she slides up. Comes down and it follows this. And the jam or the trim piece that I put on will go over this. It'll have a recessed, the same deal as these. And it'll come down, it'll turn, it'll join the dash. I'll probably do a little stub half round here because the dash just sticks out beyond that. So I'll do that half round. I'll make a piece that follows this contour all the way to the wall, maybe comes to flat, round to flat or something like that. And then I'll put a piece in right there. So that closes out then the jam from the side. It's a pocket for the hinge. And then when the door is shut, you can see she's close up here. She's not hitting because this curves in. And it'll just follow down the garnish molding. So that took quite a bit of thought because of the garnish molding and the door jamb. So you can see, maybe you can't. There you go. This cuts back. This surface steps and then cuts back to the jamb. So it gives me space so that this doesn't come in contact with it. But it looks really cool. And you know, there's just a really nice, pretty gap there. So I'm not planning on putting that rope or vinyl covered rope, you know, the windlace. I'm not planning on putting windlace in here. So I'm using, I'm putting strips around the door. I'm using rubber seals around the door. So, the trim's gotta flush out, you know, to look right. So that's that. I think I'm done for the night though. Holy cow, that's some work. But it should look pretty good. It'll just follow down, seal give you the 5/8, right? To hold the window in. And I got some straightening to do on this header, but it'll hold the window in and close everything out nice and tight, but not too tight, you know. Because stuff moves, right, when you're driving them. Very happy with it. Well, we got the one trim piece started here. I'm just using that screw. I haven't made the hole for it. He's coming down. I have to make, every time, I have to make this trim piece right here. She follows the jamb. It looks really good. It tapers back and then starts to drift out. Door closes just fine on it. So, not a very difficult piece to make, just finding the radius. Working on the other side now. A lot of gentle forming going on. But, you know, I've got the hole, I've got it located, I got it wrapped around, I got the cuts in it to get it in and on. So I'm working on this side right now. And this roll, I got to roll that a little bit more. So, almost getting there. Whoa! Hey, how? Whoa! Okay, anyway. Top and bottom screws, they're not the correct screws, right? They're just retainers. Those holes will be drilled out. Now I welded a little standoff behind the bottom to keep that profile out. So everything is, at this point, is ready. The next move, I didn't tell you about this. I'm going to tell you about that. And the next move. So I'm using these around all of the doors. Let me think here. All of the trim pieces. This is a 5/16 hole, number 10. And I may have showed this, and I'm sorry if I did. Bear with me. And oval head screws, oval head chamfer screws. So all did I say number 10? All number 6. 632. We got a couple different lengths there. Stainless steel. So those will go into there. I've chamfered the holes. To chamfer, I took a, where is that guy? Right here. Okay. And I took an old steel, number 6, and whatever, laying around on the ground there. There was a chamfer. And I just took my body hammer and tapped him into the hole. Then I followed it with a taper just to ream and clean the hole. So now we know, in terms of setting up the car, we know that our window channel is 5/8 of an inch. Okay? To accommodate the rubber and the windshield. So what I did all the way through this process is use that as a gauge. Whoops, let me back up. To step around here and mount everything. You may have seen these in over the course of the videos. But basically, that's what's following all the way around. So, that's for retaining the gasket. Last night I made a little cardboard piece. it's kind of a monkey show, but you can see the dust on there. And I stuck her in that corner just to get an inside and outside look on the gasket. And it does look good. It does look good. It follows properly. The next order of protocol then is to straighten out this channel here a little bit. It just, you can see right there, you know. But just straighten it out, because she's fitting she's a little hard to get in there right now. There's just been too much tapping and whapping. This isn't the correct gasket. The correct gasket is this one with this profile. Or what's correct? The one I'm using. This is actually a considerably lower gasket. As you can see, she sets down in there, but this one doesn't allow for that groove, right? It goes over the top. But after I get the sheet metal straightened out, this needs to close out. So I'll have to straighten out this channel, which is going to take, 4.5 minutes. And then I'm going to come across with I'm going to do a long 90 on some 18 gauge. Then I'm going to slowly shrink it until it fits into this channel, until it fits this profile, pardon me. And then I'll tack it on. But the 90 will bend down here so that, I'll have to trim it, but it'll bend down so that I offer some rigidity on that edge. And then it'll cut out around defrosters, that kind of thing. So and then that should pretty well wrap this up to the point where I'm waiting. I'm still deciding if I'm probably going to do a display up there and a display down there. But that's as we approach the finish work. Clearly I need to get in there and clean all the bottoms of that header out. But, it's really coming along. So now we gotta, I love it when everything's in sheet metal, on a section, because you're nearing the end of that portion of the project. So, all right. Current thinking, got them in my shopping cart. A display, LCD, and then I'll position gauges behind something like that. I don't know if I'll use that piece. That piece is pretty awful. But if I can make something that fits into that profile and go LCD and place the gauges, whether the whole thing is glass or just, or I use something like that, I don't know yet. But that's where that's at. Maybe I'll just build a trim piece, that follows that profile. And again, the glass and position the gauges. I'd like to have an opportunity to have a lot more information there. And number one is, if I go speedometer tack, whatever, that was ignition. But if I go speedometer tack, I've only got 3 of the 4 gauges that I'd like to have. You always need all 4 for vitals, right? And then I want to integrate turn signals and high beam and, So then we'll be done with that, and who knows? Maybe I start back on this. Oofda. That's Sherman for. Oofda. Thanks, guys.